representing their countries and not because they're women. I certainly hope that we as Americans vote for the person that we think will be, at least as a Democrat, our strongest nominee, and then in November, our strongest president. And I think the world will, A, breathe a sigh of relief, be over George W. Bush, and B, deal with the leader as the president of the United States of America.
An issue that has very much so been present and answered and pushed aside is the issue of equal rights and advancing what the LGBT community has been trying to overcome the adversity of dealing with. What's your mom's stance and what exactly is she pushing for to making that happen?
So this question is about equal rights, and particularly with the LGBT community, what we're going to do to ensure that we are pushing forward on equal rights. Well, a couple of things. She said there are some things that she can do immediately, and then some things that she will work to do longer term. What she can do immediately is to extend equal benefits to the 9 million people who work for the federal government. She can end don't ask, don't tell. And she can use the bully pulpit in a different way than it's been used under this administration. Longer term, she can work to change the tax code, which still discriminates against gay and lesbians, even those who are in committed, recognized legal relationships like a civil union in Vermont. She can work to change our hate crimes legislation, which doesn't adequately protect transgender individuals or any of us in the 21st century, given all of the internet-based crime that's perpetuated against any minority group. So ensuring that our hate crimes legislation adequately protects each of us. Ensuring that we have a president who talks about civil unions and has been a strong supporter of civil unions. She stood against the Defense of Marriage Act in the effort to amend the Constitution, and she's committed to never allowing that type of vitriol back into our debate in Washington, and making a clear stand against tolerance even, and standing up for respect. And you asked about civil rights. It's also something that we need to work on other dimensions. For instance, we still have unequal pay for equal work in this country. Women earn on average 77 cents to the dollar that men do. African American women earn 72 cents to the dollar. And Latinas earn 67 cents to the dollar. And I'm proud that my mom wrote something called the Paycheck Fairness Act to make it the law of the land that we have equal pay for equal work. Unfortunately, she hasn't even been able to get that passed through a Democratic Congress. But it's something that she's been standing up and fighting for years, and that she's committed to getting done as president. Because we know that where women are valued in the workplace, they're more likely to be valued at home and in our communities. And we need a civil rights department that actually protects our civil rights. Not only are we not where we need to be on a legislative standpoint, our civil rights enforcement has been 10% under this administration of what it was in the 90s. Now, I'd like to think that we're that much more enlightened, but I don't think we are. So we need stronger laws, absolutely. But we also need a president for whom it's a real priority, and a civil rights department and a justice department that stands up for all of us. And she will do all of that for all of us. Thank you. What's my mom's platform on Social Security reform? Well, she strongly stood against President Bush's effort to privatize Social Security, one of his main priorities when he came back in 2005. She has said she will never see Social Security privatized as long as she has anything to do with it. And if your question is also partly about ensuring that Social Security is there when you and I need it, and ensuring that Medicare is there when you and I need it, it's one of the reasons it's so important we get back to fiscal responsibility in this country. What's happened under this administration, going from a $5.6 trillion projected surplus to a $9 trillion projected debt, and when he still proposed a budget a little over a week ago that has a $400 million deficit in it, is that we are hindered in our ability to do anything. Right? We're borrowing from Social Security to just keep the lights on in our government. But it also inhibits our ability to stand up for our trade agreements, even the ones that we have, that are not strong enough. and to stand up for our values. It's, Social Security and ensuring that it's solvent and there for you and me is one of the many reasons that I appreciate so much my mother's commitment to fiscal responsibility. Right, that she tells you how she'll pay for everything, and that she's committed to pay as you go, so that everything that she would ever propose, she would tell you how she would pay for. Because if we get back to fiscal responsibility soon, we don't have to worry. Because there's still enough baby boomers who are paying into Social Security that Social Security will right itself and be solvent. But if we have another administration that is as fiscally irresponsible as this administration, we have a lot to worry about. But fiscal responsibility affects whatever it is that we really care about. I mean, sometimes people ask me about Darfur, and I'm really proud that my mom was one of the first senators to call it a genocide in early 2004, and that she fought for funding for the African Union troops, and that she's been fighting for the institute of a no-fly zone over Western Sudan to really prevent the incursion of the Janjaweed into the West. But what she's really been pushing for is for the United States to pressure the Chinese to stop buying what the government in Khartoum is selling. Because we know that the most effective thing that we could do to stop the genocide would be to have the Chinese to stop subsidizing the Sudanese government. It's very difficult for us to stand up to our bankers. So until we get back to fiscal responsibility, and until we're not borrowing billions and billions of dollars every month, and borrowing from Social Security, we won't be able to do anything that we want to do. We won't be able to have universal health care. We won't be able to raise the minimum wage. We won't be able to stand up for our human rights and our values around the world. So I'm so glad you asked that question, because it really matters to everything that we care about, Social Security and everything else.